Is Selank addictive? Now, this is a really important question because addiction can derail people from their life, and it's not just those people who are affected. And so I'm going to tell you exactly what the research shows on Selank. And right now, we have seen the physical dependence is not there, the addictive properties of Selank is not there. But if you are somebody who has addictive tendencies, then make sure you speak with your physician before ever trying this peptide or any other peptides, because addiction is something that you don't want to take lightly. I've seen too many people's lives get dismantled because of addiction. And usually the addiction comes either from opiates or even from benzodiazepines. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deconstruct the difference between Selank, which is a natural peptide that exists in your brain. It's just 7 amino acids, versus the risk that you'd have on benzodiazepines. And I'm going to just put out the challenge to a lot of you doctors out there and people in the medical field. Do some deep research on Selank, and maybe with some of your patients you may want to consider having this as an alternative, and at least it gives them a benchmark where it's something that's safe, well tolerated, and there's some really good science behind it. And so I'm like you, I want the things that are going to be safe, effective, and proven, and a lot of the research has been done on Selank over the last 30 years. So let's jump in. So I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future, and my vision is to help each one of you create this sense of agelessness as you enter into each decade of life, where each decade gets better than the last decade, so that we can avoid that decline that happens where we end up on the couch or, eating TV dinners when we're elderly and don't really have a fun life. So I want you to have fun all the way to the end, and my goal is to live as long as I can with as much health as possible and die fast. And I think relationships are one of the key metrics that get us there. And then to have a good relationship, you've got to have really good health. And so that's why I love peptides, because they create the leverage for health in my brain, my muscles, my heart, and I've seen this work in thousands of people. So let's talk about the addictive properties. So what is an addiction? There's this thing called a physical dependency. That's real, and your body can have a physical dependency. If you're taking a medication as your doctor prescribed it, and there will be withdrawal symptoms, that means you have physical dependency. Virtually every benzodiazepine on the market, I don't know of a single one that does not have physical dependency warnings. And that means do not go and jump off any medications because Regan talked about Selank. I'm going to try that instead. Do not do that. Be very careful, because these withdrawal symptoms can be very dangerous if not done properly. You can end up in psychosis. But if you look at addiction, that's where you're using the medication above and beyond what your doctor has prescribed. And this is when you start making choices in your life that feed the addiction versus doing the things that you know are good for you, keeping the promises you've kept. And so when it comes to addiction, I had a client who I loved, and this was years ago. And he came to me, and he was just this very successful lawyer. He had 9 kids, just the most generous human, heart-centered. We always had these deep conversations when he'd come in. And then he got in a car wreck, and he injured his neck. After that injury, he had to get plates put in his neck, and he actually had rods, so they had to fuse his cervical spine, C5 to C7. He was on pain medications naturally, which I would be too if I had that surgery. And he became dependent on those pain medications. And then that dependency led to more of an addiction. And then that addiction led him to using heroin, which was crazy because he was a family man and literally went bankrupt, got divorced. He's estranged from his kids. I haven't seen him in over a decade, but it was such a telling sign where you never know, no matter who you are, we all are susceptible to addiction, and it can be very damaging to families. It can be very damaging to the very fabric of society. And so when it comes to benzodiazepines, now he was addicted to opiates, so I don't want you guys to think I'm framing his addiction on benzodiazepines, but I have had clients who have had very significant habits built around benzodiazepines. It's how they relax in the evening. I only take it a couple times a week, Regan, and then that couple times a week ends up being every night to sleep, and then every night to sleep leads to more anxiety in the day, and so it's this runaway train. And so when we talk about Selank, some of the studies, I mean, like I mentioned, Selank's been studied for decades, at least 3 decades. Most of the research has been done in Russia. And in Russia, they actually compared the benefits of Selank to benzodiazepines. And what they found is that Selank was actually preferred over benzodiazepines. Not only did it have a quicker relief for patients, this was done through nasal administration, but they also found that with the benzodiazepines, people had physical dependencies and addictions. So they found that Selank was much more preferred over the conventional treatment of benzodiazepines. And they also found in their conclusion, in looking at the significance of Selank, the thing that it works on are these genes that express GABA. And GABA is that neurotransmitter that allows your body to relax and feel like everything's going to be okay. And I want to tell you now that everything's going to be okay. It's okay. And the anxiety is when we have that fear of the future, and it drives our behavior because we think that nothing's going to work out in our favor. But do me a favor right now and just look back on your life and think of how many things have turned out so good. I know the times in my life, like I went through a divorce. I was married for 10 years, had 2 phenomenal kids. I went through a divorce after 10 years, and I just felt like a complete failure. I just felt like I've disappointed my family. Professionally, I just felt like, oh man, I don't have credibility. I thought I was a good human. But we grew apart, and she had a different vision of what the future looked like than I had. We had a nice, amicable separation and divorce, but I remember the anxiety I had, and I wish I had Selank at the time. I didn't. Fast forward, that was 15 years ago. I got remarried, upgraded. My wife now is amazing. We have, yes, we still have our, we have to have some conflicts, but it's so nice to just be aligned with somebody. But that span, I had a few years there where I had a lot of anxiety. And I know there was this tendency where it's like, oh, alcohol seems to help my anxiety. And so I started drinking alcohol. I just noticed that it would just relax my body. And it was just 1 drink, then sometimes 2, and then sometimes on the weekends more. But now, fast forward, it's been 15 years. I just don't need that. I've been able to retrain my brain. I got deep into meditation. I just started really taking care of the health of my brain. I started exercising more. I started getting more strategic with peptides. I did intranasal stem cells, and that got rid of a lot of my ADHD tendencies. And then it was those intranasal stem cells that were just done over a decade ago that I got open to this whole world of peptides. And Selank was one of the first nootropics that I tried. And I remember when I first used Selank, my entire nervous system just relaxed. I was on a flight flying down to St. George to go speak to a group of people, and I was like, there's no way I can get on stage. I had so much anxiety, I couldn't even complete a sentence. And literally within 15 minutes after doing the sprays of Selank in my nose, I had a complete relaxation. It was just like this wave of comfort. Like I just got a big hug from the universe, so thank you for the hug. And it changed my life forever. And so now, fast forward, we've seen thousands of clients have very good benefits of Selank. Some of you may try it, you may not notice anything. You may have the proper GABA expression in your brain. Some of the other benefits of Selank is it stops viral replication. You don't get the bacterial or fungus replication in the sinuses if you're exposed to mold. Selank can be very good if you're using it on a frequent basis. And the risk profile in every single study that's ever been done, both in rodents and in humans, the tolerance and risk factor for addiction is almost 0. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this video, to give you some options to understand that anxiety is a real thing. It can be devastating. It doesn't have to be. For those of you who want to go deeper, you said, I really want a team who can work with me on finding the right structure. Selank needs to be stacked with other peptides. And better nutrition, better exercise. And so one of the very first things you can do to get involved is you can go to agelessfuture.com and then come to one of our peptide parties. They're super fun, where you can try Selank, you can try sarcotropin, you can try all these cool peptides like NAD, glutathione. We'll even do a little methylene blue. These are healthy parties, and you get a community of like-minded people who are all looking to improve their health. So all you need to do is click on the link below, take you to agelessfuture.com, and I hope to see you at my next peptide party.